For the longest time, we've all heard this idea that the world is getting smaller, the death of distance. But what if that's not quite right? What if the very meaning of distance is changing right before our eyes? Well, today, we're going to explore how the world map is being completely redrawn, not by miles, but by a powerful new mix of forces.
And it all really kicks off with this simple but super powerful idea from Pankaj Ghemawat, the guy who created the cage framework. He argued that, hey, distance isn't dead at all. It's just way more complicated than we ever thought. And today, that complexity is on a whole other level.
Okay, so that really makes you wonder, right? When we talk about distance, what do we actually mean? Is it just how many miles are between point A and point B, or is it something more? The answer is flipping global business on its head.
And here's the secret sauce, really. It's looking at the world through this new lens, the geodemographic dimension. It's a fantastic concept that basically mashes together the physical world, the where, with the human landscape, the who. It's all about understanding that markets are defined by where people are, sure, but also how they're moving and living within those places.
So let's start with the first massive force that's redrawing our map, the physical environment itself. And it's being totally rewritten by what we're calling the climate rewrite.
Let's talk about the climate rewrite, because climate change has officially jumped from a topic for scientists to a front-page issue for C-suites. It's not some problem for the future anymore. It's a critical, right-now variable in logistics that you just can't afford to ignore.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. Look no further than the Panama Canal. Over the last couple of years, major droughts have literally forced them to cut way back on the number of ships that can pass through. A single climate event like that effectively makes the world bigger again. It increases the functional distance between oceans and slaps a kind of hidden tax on global trade.
And it's not just the climate either. Geopolitics is actively shrinking the map in other ways. We're seeing this big push towards friendshoring and nearshoring, where companies move their manufacturing to allied nations or just closer to home. Think Mexico for the U.S. market. And the DHL Global Connectedness Report actually backs us up. It shows that we aren't exactly deglobalizing, but trade is for sure becoming way more regional. The whole math behind distance is changing.
Okay, so we've got this shifting physical map. Now let's add another huge layer to it, the demographic divide. Because where people are and who those people are is also shifting in some pretty dramatic ways. The big story here is this idea of bifurcation. Essentially, the world is splitting into two totally different demographic realities. This is creating two completely distinct kinds of markets with different needs, different workforces, and wildly different consumer habits.
So on one side, you have what we call the silver economy. Think about places like Europe, Japan, and even China now. They're dealing with aging consumers and workforces that are actually getting smaller. Then, on the other side, you've got the youth bulge in Africa and South Asia. We're talking about the world's youngest populations and the fastest-growing pools of labor. The center of gravity for both workers and future customers, well, it's on the move.
And get this, the scale of this change is it's historic. This chart shows that for the first time ever, the number of people over 50 is about to become the largest age group on the planet. Just let that sink in for a second. We're heading towards a world with more grandparents than grandchildren. That has huge implications for everything from healthcare to the kinds of products people will buy.
And at the very same time, people are moving. We are living through an age of hyper-urbanization. By 2050, more than 2/3 of all of us will live in cities. But here's the million-dollar question. Where is all this growth happening? Well, according to the UN, a staggering 95% of it will be in the developing countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America.
So what happens when you lay these two new maps on top of each other, the shifting physical world and the diverging human one? Well, you get the central strategic challenge for any global business trying to make it in the 21st century.
And this brings us right to the heart of the paradox of this new global map. The places with the best ports, the best roads, the best connectivity, I'm talking Europe and East Asia, are the exact same places where the workforce is shrinking. And then, the places with the best demographics, those young, growing populations, are often the ones that are still struggling with that critical infrastructure. It's a massive trade-off. So what in the world do you do about this? Well, first, you have to accept that the cost of distance is going up. The name of the game isn't just efficiency anymore, it's about building redundancy and resilience into your supply chains. Second, that old playbook of demographic arbitrage, just chasing cheap labor in one country after another, yeah, that's pretty much over.
Companies now have to seriously look at these new youth bulge regions. And finally, you've got to adapt. The new map is all about volatility, which means constant adjustment is the only way to survive.
This new geodemographic reality, it isn't just an idea for a business school class. It forces a very real and, honestly, a very difficult choice about where companies are going to place their bets for the future. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. If you were advising a major global company, what would you tell them to do? Pour money into advanced automation to solve the labor shortages in the aging, wealthy North, or invest in building fundamental infrastructure to unlock all that human potential in the young, growing South? The answer to that question is going to define the winners and losers on this new map of the world.